thank you for joining the Restless event. So we're really pleased to have with us tonight a presentation on careers in care in East Sussex with our Restless partner, the East Sussex County Council. So tonight you're going to hear from Cheryl, Sue, Sara, Alison and Suzy as they share their first-hand experience of as employees within the adult social care at East Sussex County Council. And so you're going to hear and find out more about what it's like to be a support worker in adult social care and what a typical day looks like. You're going to hear from recruiting managers about current vacancies and how to apply for a job. And you're going to learn about the support they can offer to coach you through the job application and interview process. And I'm delighted to welcome our host, Suzy Martin, who is a project manager in adult social care and involved with various behind-the-scenes programmes of work at East Sussex County Council. And before I hand over to Suzy, just a couple of quick housekeeping comments. The event will run for 1 hour. If you have any questions, what we would like to ask is that you post them into the chat function. If anybody has any problems with the chat function, I mean, raise your hand now. I'm hoping that everybody knows how that works. If you put your questions into the chat function, we'll answer all questions at the end in the Q&A. We ask that you stay muted for the presentations, and then also if you want to, it's completely up to you. You can switch your cameras off or leave them on, whatever works for you. This event will be recorded and available to view on our YouTube channel and on site. And so, without further ado, I shall hand over to Suzy.
Thank you, Claire. Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name's Suzy, and I work in adult social care at East Sussex County Council. I'm really happy that you've joined me and my colleagues on this event this evening. Lovely to see you. And as Claire said, please do pop any comments or queries you might have in the chat. And we'll aim to go through those together before we finish this evening. If you go away this evening and suddenly think of any other questions you've got, don't worry, we'll be sharing an email address so that you can get in touch with us. No pressure to come up with those questions right now. So when you hear the phrase social care, I wonder what you think. And I wonder what kind of images come to mind. And I wonder whether you have a good idea about what kind of jobs people who work in adult social care do. And I also wonder if you think about those people in our community who are on the receiving end of the work that we do, which is to say, people in our community right here in East Sussex. So they might be your family members or your friends. It might be you yourself or your next door neighbour. And the truth is there's much more to adult social care than might meet the eye, which is why this evening you're going to hear from me, Alison, Cheryl, Sue and Sara talk about the work that they and their teams do, as well as the job opportunities that we have at the moment. Cheryl and Sue's work takes them into the community, providing care directly to adults who are in need of support. Alison's team acts as a front door into adult social care for our residents, among others, while Sara and I work in roles which mean that although we don't work directly with our residents, we work in various ways to support the teams who do. But before we get started, I've got a couple of questions for you. I'm interested to find out about your current employment status and whether you have experience of care work. So we've got Premna, our technical whiz tonight. She's going to pop up a poll on the screen, and if you could select the option that best applies to you, that would be great. So Premna, could we have poll number 1, please? Thank you. So I'll give you a moment to read through those and choose the answer that applies to you. Lovely, thanks Premna. So we've got a mixture here of retirement, people who are retired and thinking about returning to work, someone who's looking for a change of job, and someone who's thinking for of getting additional work. Thank you, Premna. We've got one more poll to ask you. Can we have the second poll, please, Premna? So here we're going to ask if you've worked in the care sector before. So again, I'll give you a moment to read those through. So we've got a couple who have worked in the care sector before and someone with no prior experience. So again, a nice mix. Thanks, Premna. Okay, so before I hand over to my colleagues, I mentioned already that my role is more of a behind the scenes role in adult social care. I've worked for East Sussex for 8 years. I joined on a 6-month contract and I'm still here. And I'm pleased to say that I'm now a permanent member of staff. In my previous life, I worked in IT. So I started out my career as a programmer in financial services. And I left a job as a systems analyst in the city in order to start a family and move back to my roots here in Lewes in East Sussex when my son was 2. So when it came to returning to work when my son was a bit older, I knew I wanted to stay local and I knew I wanted a job that gave me flexibility. And that's how I came to work at East Sussex. Over time, I've now got a son who's a big hulking teenager. So my need for flexibility is not quite the same. But I found that this is a great place to work. I've got excellent colleagues. There's a lot of variety. I've done a number of different jobs here. And there's also the chance to get some great training. I benefit from a decent annual leave policy and a really good solid pension scheme. Anyway, enough about me. I'm going to hand you over to my colleague Alison so that you can hear about the work she and her team carry out and also about the roles Alison's got available at the moment. So I'm going to mute myself and hand over to you, Alison. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzy, and good evening, everyone. My name's Alison O'Shea and I'm the Operations Manager for a service called Health and Social Care Connect. I've been in East Sussex County Council and in adult social care for the last 6.5 years. Prior to that, I started my career in nursing back in 1996, which seems like a long time ago now. And I worked in our local A&E department in Eastbourne for 10 years and then moved into the private sector where I really learned my management skills, I would say. I was a regional clinical manager in a private company, so it was all very different to public service and the health service. And then 6.5 years ago, I came back into the public sector and into East Sussex. And for me, I think in terms of an employer, I do think I think they're a brilliant employer. I think they're really supportive of staff and flexible. In terms of my role, I really enjoy what I do. I really enjoy working in the service that I manage. Health and Social Care Connect was set up back in 2015. So I joined just as it was in its infancy, and we've come a long way since then. So it was set up to make things easier for residents and professionals across East Sussex to refer adults and get help and support and information and advice for adults across East Sussex. We have a number of different functions and help an awful lot of people. So we have a public facing front door where we have people on telephones that you can actually speak to. You know, you haven't got to talk to a robot or a chatbot, and you haven't got to send an email or wait for a response. You can actually talk to someone in my team if you need information, advice and signposting, particularly around social care services and support and things that are available for you in our area. That team is manned by a number of people who are really passionate about what they do and how they can play their part in helping people to live longer, live better, and to feel totally supported in their lives. We also have a professional facing part of the service where referrals come into us from people like GPs and hospitals, where services are wanted, like district and community nursing. They may want carer support, they might want adult social care services. You may have heard of things like packages of care and home care and all of these different terms and terminology. And I think a long time ago, those terms kind of got lost and merged into health. So people think all of those things are the NHS and health services, and they're very much part of adult social care. You know, we're going into people's homes, we're going to help people, and some of our colleagues later are going to talk about what they do and how they do that front-facing work. But it's people, they're having referrals into my team and phoning up my team that get them that kind of care and support that they need. So we're providing a really good, helpful service so people could contact us and we can point them in the right direction and help them navigate through that really, really complicated system. You know, people don't know where to go, they don't know what's available. We do that for you and for them, and get them the help and support they need. So it's a really rewarding job. There are other parts of the service. HSCC, or Health and Social Care Connect, is a really varied role, but there are two main focuses, and we have vacancies in those areas. So we're currently recruiting for health and social care service advisors. Now, these can be people who help process those referrals into the right services and get the additional information that people need so that we know that, oh yes, that lady has her prescription chart so the nurse can go out and see her, or for example, or we're giving advice about, I don't know, lunch clubs, or where you could get a personal assistant, or maybe where you can have some occupational therapy equipment arranged for you. It's a really, really wide-ranging role. And I think that makes things interesting for people. It is a help and supporting role, but not one that is providing sort of like personal care or direct hands-on care, which for some people can be off-putting. And for some people, they still want to do something really helpful and of value, but don't feel maybe that that's the kind of role they want anymore, or they don't feel maybe physically able to do that role anymore. And again, disabilities or other needs that people have, these are things we can all accommodate in East Sussex. You know, there are a lot of things that we can do to help people work well, live well, and again, I think that makes us a good employer. The service advisor role for us, you know, it is varied. There are opportunities. You can work in different parts of the service. You can progress if you want to. You can become like one of our senior members of staff, or you can do what a lot of people have done and move on to different departments within the service, so within adult social care, into sort of like more senior positions. This is an excellent grounding for someone who hasn't done this before, or wants to try something different, or wants to apply their life skills and experience in a different way, but hasn't necessarily had social care experience, because you can do that here. And we have a really comprehensive training program and support program. We've underpinned that with a competency framework that you can build to in your own, you know, that just show your own skills and see where your gaps are, and we can fill in those training and developmental gaps internally and with our training department. So I think there's a lot of satisfaction that you can get from this role, and you can learn new skills and do new things. So in terms of applications, we've tried to make things really easy. We now you can just put a CV online on one of our things and just fill in those questions about, you know, how do I meet this essential criteria? What skills and knowledge am I bringing to the table? What can I how can I demonstrate that I meet these sort of attributes? And for us, you don't need great long degrees and qualifications. You just need to maybe have had some people experience, some customer service experience, enjoy working with people, communicating with people. They're the kind of skills we want. We're not looking for anything else more complicated or more specialist. And it's just about how you get that across on an application if you were interested. You know, you see quite often, oh, I've got excellent communication skills. Well, that doesn't tell you anything. You know, give some examples, give some things like, in my previous role, I did something and this is how I did it. And if you give those kind of like experiential examples, people can see how your skills and experience match to the role and the criteria that we're looking for. And I think that's where people often go wrong with an application and getting through that shortlisting point, they might just pick out a couple of things that are in a job description and just say, yes, I've got that. So, but saying, yes, I've got that doesn't show me how or why. So having an example is a really, really useful thing. I would say is a really good way to do an application and get that application shortlisted. We still do our interviews online. We do them using MS Teams for a lot of reasons. Because our service is so dependent on IT and telephony, it enables us to see if people can manage with IT, because that would be one of the things I would say is a blocker for some people. Some people are great, some people not so much, and maybe you need some a bit of IT training or something before you did this kind of a role or considered this role. But we can sort of gauge a level. We also do some exercises in our interviews, which just let you also get a bit of a flavour of what the job is like before you go any further. You know, it's we do some exercises around taking information from a telephone call and what was the important information in that. We have a look at some of our referral forms and try to identify, you know, is this referral form complete? There's nothing tricky, nothing, you know, no one's trying to catch anybody out on any of these things. It's just to give you a flavour of the kind of thing you would be doing on a day-to-day basis, and also gives us an idea of whether you can pull out that relevant information. So those would be the kind of things you would be asked to do in an interview, as well as your sort of standard interview questions that you would expect. Again, no tricks, no surprises. All you need to do is make sure you've read those job descriptions well, those service descriptions. You don't need to do anything more for this role. That will help you, and any life experience and any work experience that you've had would be sufficient to successfully get through that interview. And that's me. I don't know if anybody has any questions, or
maybe if anyone's got any questions, they could type them in the Q&A and we can come back to them at the end. Thank you, Alison. That's a really nice introduction to what the team does and some very practical tips on, you know, if you want to apply, what you've got to think about, and the fact that our recruitment processes, it's not about tricking you up to it's not to trick you out, it's supportive. You know, we want to see people do well. And I think with your team, Alison, you talked about it's this front door into adult social care for residents and GPs, for example, but career-wise, it can also be a front door into a further career in adult social care. So I think there's so much to offer.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alison. Shall we move on next to Cheryl?
Good evening.
I'll hand over to you.
So so I'm Cheryl. I started in East Sussex County Council 32 years ago as a part-time home help to work around my family. And I'm still here 32 years later as a deputy manager. Every day brings a different challenge, enjoyment. It's because you're making a difference in someone's day. So we provide short-term package of care for vulnerable adults. So that's to avoid hospital admissions, might be a GP referral. And it's in what we do is we provide a 6 weeks package of care, and that is to re-able them with their personal care, daily routine, that kind of thing. So the support workers, in order to be a support worker, you don't actually need any experience because we can provide that full training. If you applied for the position, you would not be lone working for 3 months, and that is because of the training and shadowing staff. So you wouldn't feel inexperienced. We provide lone worker devices, kit bag. We're one of the few services in the height of the pandemic that had to go and visit COVID clients, prevent those hospital admissions, keep them safe at home. So we provide the full PPE, full training. What else do you need? Just a desire to make a difference in someone's day, really, just to make that positive difference. Yeah. What else can I say? If you did apply for the job, it's a very straightforward application. We're very much on value-based, so we've got 5 value-based questions. That's it. That's what, because we can train the rest of it. Yeah, the ability to care. I have got a few. I'm just gonna read a couple of positive feedback from the clients that we've actually had. So, and this was some clients that we did provide care for in the community during the pandemic. So the JCR service was very good. All wore their masks and aprons. I found all the exercises beneficial. It's nice to see people visiting me as I live alone. It was nice to know someone was coming to see me. I think these just say it all, really. And another one, my dad was discharged home at Christmas due to a shortage of beds because of the emergency COVID crisis. The service was brilliant, helped my dad with his mobility, and he benefited from the physio. It was good to have JCR coming in to help during COVID and over the Christmas time. I felt like I benefited from JCR also just to get on with helping dad with his mobility. It's just, you know, absolutely superb service, helped me so much during the pandemic. Without them, I wouldn't have been able to cope. My daughter was so grateful because she lived in France and had the reassurance that I was being looked after while I was unwell. They made contact with her, kept the communications, informing her of my progress. Nothing was a problem and they all worked together. All the carers and the management team were great. You know, that says it all, really. To me, it is the difference that you make in people's lives, which can happen, could be any one of us at any time. Yeah.
It's lovely to hear those testimonials, isn't it, Cheryl? Must mean a lot to you and the team. Could I ask you a question about the team culture? What's it like working in your team?
I think you'll find everybody has been here for many years. So I was only speaking to a lead support worker this evening who says that she not only loves the work, but the team. She said there's not one person in the team that she doesn't like, you know, and even at all levels, as far as I'm concerned, there's not an I in team. We are a team, all of us together.
That's lovely. Great to hear. And you know, that you're proof of the pudding. You're 32 years here in East Sussex. Yeah. East Sussex through and through.
Yeah, that's it. I do have support worker Sue with me.
We do. Should we hand over to Sue next, who can tell us a bit about her day and her role? Hi, Sue. Over to you.
Hi. So my name's Sue Port. I'm 66 and I've worked for JCR for 2.5 years. So I haven't quite been here as long as Cheryl yet. I have no background in care at all, and I've always maintained it was the one sector that I did not want to be employed in. So for 35 years, I ran a business with my husband, first in agriculture, farming beef and sheep, then manufacturing large grass cutting equipment. After my husband had a heart attack and triple heart bypass in 2011, we had to give up the manufacturing side. And so for the past 11 years, we've concentrated on retailing garden machinery and motorbikes. We have a showroom on our farm. During this time, I've been very much customer facing, mainly involved in sales and marketing of any business that we ran. And I've built up very good relationships with my customers, and many of them would have been with us for years. They trusted that what I said would happen and I'd follow through with their problems to do my best to find an answer for them. If I couldn't sort it, I'd know somebody who would. So what had changed? I got to the age that I'd begun to suffer with arthritis in my hands and they had become weaker. And to do the job I was doing, which was a very manual job, I needed a certain amount of strength and time was moving on. It took us a couple of years to find somebody to replace me and who could take over my job. And I started to apply for less strenuous jobs. My obvious choice was in retail, but I couldn't find any that would suit the hours I wanted to do. Also, at my age, people don't particularly want retail people who are necessarily necessarily retired. When I applied to be a support worker with the council, I didn't really know what the job entailed, but I felt I'd probably be able to do it. I'd not been to a job interview for over 40 years, so I was incredibly nervous. This was a new experience for me. I'd interviewed people who came to work for us, but now the boot was on the other foot. And I was in front of a panel of 3 answering questions about my ability to do a job. One of my main assets is probably that I've seen life. I've travelled a little, worked in a variety of roles, mainly within our own businesses, but also doing other things, been in good and bad situations. I have 2 grown-up children and a family. I run a farm, and I've looked after various animals. I've brought new life into the world and been responsible to end life when it's right to do so, sometimes by unforgettable accident, more often by design, when an animal has reached a point in its life when it's ready to go for slaughter. That's farming. These are skills that can be lacking in younger applicants, but they are in abundance in the more mature members of the society, who are often forgotten. It was a bit of a shock, but I was so thrilled to have got through the interview. Here I was, over 60, and I'd got a job for my first interview. I found myself really looking forward to the start date in March 9, 2020. Then COVID hit. I started a month late in the April. As I had no previous experience in care, except for raising a family, I found some of the training a little difficult. Usually a trainee would go out with a senior support worker, shadowing their visits, watching what's done. But with COVID, all that was stopped. I did my care certificate, which is the qualification that's needed for any form of care in this country, mainly in the office with no one else around me, and courses that were normally face-to-face were now conducted on Teams or as an online course. As a change, I was sent to Milton Grange in Eastbourne for a few days. This unit has a small dementia ward used as an interim ward before the parents go back to their own homes. It was here that I realised what a rewarding job this could be. I was involved with a lady who thought that everyone was going to kill her, but I managed to break through to her and talk her down from off the top of her bed. After 3 days there, the ward upstairs got COVID, so that was the end of that one. I started working with a mentor at JCR in late June. I could not go into everybody's house, but was allowed to go into enough to realise that a support worker is an invaluable lifeline to the clients we visit. At that time, we were probably the only people many of our clients would see in any single day. I was still doing training courses in the office, but increasingly learning on the job. Although I was very nervous about it, I was finally let loose from the community on my own in mid-August 2020. So it had taken me probably an extra month to do the training to be allowed out because of the COVID situation. By then, I'd almost completed all 15 sections of the care certificate, as well as other parts of practical training like moving and handling, first aid, and many others that I would need in my new career. I, like many others, didn't even realise the council had this service before I started working for JCR. In a nutshell, we take care of the people who come out of hospital who have no one to help them when they get home. We're not carers, we're support workers. So although we would support a client to get out of bed in the morning, washed and dressed, we will stand back and encourage the client to try and do these things for themselves. We're not there to pick up a flannel, wash them all over. We're there to show them methods of doing it themselves if they're incapacitated. It may be that initially we have to wash their backs or their legs or their feet. And in fact, we often go in and offer to wash their backs. They've probably never washed their backs before in their lives. They've usually had a shower and presumed that that's washing their backs. As time goes on, and with the help of some labour-saving gadgets and advice about how to do things safely, most clients are able to get back to base level, where they were before they went into hospital. This service will last for up to 6 weeks and is free of charge. It may be that the client only needs our help for 3 weeks before they're back on their feet. Or if they use up the 6 weeks, we may have to arrange for ongoing care from the outside sources. Our main goal is to make a difference to the client. So maybe they've fallen and broken their hip. they would be on hip precautions for 4 to 6 weeks. This means they can't bend over 90 degrees or twist or lift heavy items. The consequences of this are that if they drop something, they need help to pick it up because they cannot bend down. They cannot bend down to put on underwear. They can't bend down to put on their trousers or their socks or stockings or their shoes or slippers. All these tasks that we take for granted, and are now, they're not allowed for a period of time as it puts unnecessary strain on their hip. However, we have a collection of things we can provide to help with certain tasks. A grabber to pick things up off the floor, a long handle sponge, who knew there was such a thing? To wash legs and feet and the back, a long handled shoehorn to help with shoes and slippers. We can also provide walking sticks, perching stools, frames, and many other items to help a person recover from a hospital stay. As an example, we had a client, let's call her Carol, who always wore jeans, but she was unable to bend over to put them on. She tried to use a grabber, but the jeans were just too stiff and heavy for the grabber, and she didn't have the strength in her arms. I worked out a method using a pair of her husband's braces that clipped on, and she hauled them up with those. She was absolutely chuffed to bits with those. But as soon as she was able to bend down, she was pulling them up herself. Many of our clients are just lacking in confidence when they get home. They've had a fall and they're now fearful they may fall again. All they need is reassurance that they can go about their normal daily tasks on their own. Cooking, moving about the kitchen, showering and washing, making their beds, just small tasks that they've always done all their lives. It's a question of working out how to do things with them so that they can manage on their own again. So why do I enjoy working for JCR? Because I've always been self-employed, I'm amazed at the support I get from both my colleagues and my managers. Everyone's always been so kind, even when I make mistakes, which, I've always been termed all through my life as a bit of a loose cannon. And I think Cheryl will probably reiterate that I'm probably the one that's always in trouble. I'm supported to get it right. And everyone makes sure that, we're all happy in our work. Even if I know that I'm sort of in the doghouse a bit, my colleagues will always phone me up and say, are you all right? Come on, you can do it. You know how to do it. Just, you can do it. I work 30 hours a week, but there are contracts for 18, 24 or 30 hours. And we work shifts of 8 hours. So we either work 7 till 1 or 4 till 10. Rarely both shifts in a day, but that chance may be open to you if you wish to do that. We also work every other weekend. For me, this is perfect as it gives me plenty of time for myself. I get back at 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the afternoon. I've then got the whole day to do some gardening or whatever. I think that's pretty well all from me. I think that's given you a rough idea of what we can do, what we can't do. We also do things like sort of medications. Sometimes clients want us to help them with their medications. Sometimes, they may have got home and there isn't a pint of milk or anything in the fridge for them to eat. So, it'll be up to us to make sure we nip down to the shop and get them something to eat for the next 24 hours or something. But our main job is we are there as support. We are not carers. We are there as support. It might mean that we have to do some care, and there might be some very unappetizing jobs that we might have to do every now and then. But on the whole, what we do is support. And the people in our community and our clients really appreciate what we do. And I think, it's a real job to be proud of. Anyone who wishes to come and join us, we'd be very happy to see you.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Cheryl. And I think people's life stories are fascinating, and yours is no exception. All those different careers that you've had, and here you are doing something that you never imagined you would do. And you've spoken very movingly about the support that you provide to those people whose homes you're going into. What would you say then to someone who's thinking, well, maybe should I give it a go, or perhaps they're hesitating in the way that you were a couple of years ago? What would you say to them? What's your message?
Well, I think, just give it a go. I think my husband was one of the most surprised. He said, what do you mean you're going to do that job? He said, you're the most uncaring person I've ever met. So, you know, he said, so who knew? But, you know, I just so enjoy the job. And I would say anybody's got to try it. We've all got a caring person in us, especially those of us who've had children. We've, you know, one way or another, we've all had to care for somebody. And, you know, that may continue. I also I help care for my elderly mother as well. And I think it's within our basic nature as human beings to care for people. And, you know, it's a great job. I really enjoy it.
Thank you, Cheryl. That's wonderful. And I can imagine you're a real asset to the team and that we're really lucky to have you. So thank you for speaking this evening and taking time out from your job to come and talk to us. Thank you. Well, I'm going to move on now to Sara, who does quite a different role, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what she's done in adult social care and what she's doing these days in her current role. Over to you, Sara.
Thank you, Suzy. Hello, everyone. Welcome. And thank you for joining us on a Thursday night at 6 o'clock and staying with us until for an hour, basically. It's wonderful to see you. And Sue and Cheryl, I know Joint Community Rehabilitation, JCR, is a fantastic service. I work very closely with them. And it was wonderful to hear like Sue's stories. That's great. You're a bit of a troublemaker, I feel then. Need to watch you. Okay, so yes, my name is Sara Knight and I'm 53. And I've been working for the local authority for the last, nearly 9 years. I started off as a temp. I'd finished another job as a manager because I'd had enough of management at that point and thought I'd experience something else. I thought, well, East Sussex County Council, one of the biggest employers, and we employ around 47% of staff aged 50 plus. So, and I wasn't that age then, but I have become so. I'm currently a training and development consultant, specifying around recruitment and retention for adult social care staff, predominantly support workers, care roles, etc. So I've got the pleasure of coaching clients, training. I deliver the Care Act training. I deliver the Well-Led programme, which is for aspiring managers or new managers to help them on their journey. And I'm at events, I'm at colleges, I'm a jack of all trade really, which is wonderful. Every day is different. So I started off as a temp in a joint commissioning team, putting the local offer together for all different providers, then ended up in children's services and as an assessment and planning officer. So you may have heard of the EHCP, Education Healthcare Plans. I used to write those, go to schools, meet young people with disabilities. And then I went into adult social care for the last 5+ years as a resource officer in a transition service. So that was supporting young people aged 16 to 25 with severe and enduring disabilities. So disabilities has always been my background and my passion, but also coaching and training others to empower them, to give them the tools has always been a real passion of mine. I love it. I adore it when you see those light bulb moments. Prior to that, I worked at Thomas Cook's for 20 years when I was about 18. So I've travelled the world, been very fortunate. I've been a manager for the Alzheimer's Society, Shaw Trust for the national charity for disabled individuals and disadvantaged individuals. So I've been really lucky to have such different jobs that have all prepared me for the one I'm doing now. So the thing about working in the local authority, it's the people for me. I'm a real people's person, if you haven't guessed already. I love to build enduring relationships. I love to empower and support others. And for me, it's around career progression. I've certainly done that since, you're at my age now at 53 years young. I'm still looking at other opportunities within the local authority. So there's always something for everyone. And as I said to you, what around, we employ around 47% of staff. We need this age group that we're at now that have had that life experience, got those life skills, and we're looking at more of a value-based recruitment process, which I'm really pleased to hear. So we're not looking at, on some jobs we are, so social workers, obviously, you need your degree and you need that level of safeguarding, etc. But we're looking for the care sector around people that are engaged with people, compassionate, have emotional intelligence, integrity, values around caring for people, making a difference to people's lives. And so I'm at a lot of DWP events as well, and that's where I've found a lot of beautiful people that are sort of aspiring to get back to work. And I'm also really wanting to work with restless and any candidates that think, actually, after tonight, let's go and speak to Sara or any of the other members of staff that you've heard, and we can support and nurture you and show you the routes and signpost you to the correct managers as well, which I do with lovely Cheryl and the other managers of JCR. So it's about, for me, summarising, I guess, giving back to my community. So I have been client facing, as I've said to you. So I've experienced the hard, gritty, trying to go to a panel to get funding for things for a support plan. I've written support plans, I've done assessments, risk assessments, I've gone to court. So all those things have given me the ability to have empathy when I'm training others now, because I've done it. I've been in their shoes. So and it's around being able to inspire others, being able to teach, being able to support, train and coach others to be their ultimate best. So for me, that's like everything. And I choose East Sussex. And I'm just wondering, do you? Over to you, Suzy.
Lovely. Thank you, Sara. And again, another beautiful illustration of the variety of roles in East Sussex and how we, among those of us on the call tonight, you know, that range of roles that we have, and that ability to progress. What Alison touched on earlier about how you might start in one role, but actually there's many other roles that subsequently can open up to you. Sara, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about some of the work you're doing at the moment. So you're when you find someone who's interested in applying for a role with us, you do some level of coaching perhaps to support them through that application process and the interview process. What would you say to someone who's listening tonight and who might be a bit nervous about going for it? Have you got any tips, or is there anything you can offer them?
Yeah, so the service that I offer with the recruitment and retention is to support that person. And I've come across a lot of people at the moment that have been out of work for a while, could have been retired, for example, and it's trying to alleviate that inner, I guess, limited self-belief that, can I do this? So I'm here to say that, you know, luckily we've got that support mechanism for you where I can, if you've offered an interview, I can coach and like an hour session prior to that interview to really get you grounded and to really extract those transferable skills and evidence-based. So we're looking at, you know, solution-focused, evidence-based, using the STAR approach. Perhaps people may have heard of that: situation, task, action, and result. What did you do? Like Alison was saying earlier, tell us, illustrate what you did. What, so it's great to say I'm a great communicator, but how are you a great communicator? What do you do? How do you use those skills? What was the result? So I think is also about, I wanted to add as well, Suzy, sorry, I forgot to say, around what I was really surprised about is the level of apprenticeships that we offer as well. And that links into the training and development side where my passion is. But the apprenticeships, you can, you know, work from a level 2 up to a degree level whilst you're employed with us. So you can have your job, earn a salary whilst getting trained on the job. So for me, that's amazing, about empowering people to be their best again and to give those skills.
Lovely, thank you, Sara. And so both Alison and Cheryl have got active vacancies at the moment. You know, if you want to take a look at what we've got, and if you're a bit hesitant about how to take that forward, you know, Sara can provide you with some support to help you take that leap. So I really do urge you, the email address that we're going to provide, you can contact us via that. Alison, did you want to step in there?
I was just going to say, the other thing we do as well, if you want to have a chat with us more informally, talk about our roles, talk about what's available, our phone numbers are available. I would imagine that's the same for Cheryl, but certainly I take calls if anyone's interested and anyone wants more information.
Lovely, thank you. And Claire's just popped an email address in the chat there. And, you know, if you email us and you want to talk about vacancies that Alison's got or that Cheryl's got, we can forward those on to you and make sure that you're talking to the right person. So please do, please do get in touch if you want to take things forward or find out a bit more. So I hope that this evening's given you a bit of a flavour of how diverse the roles are in adult social care and the kind of people who work in it. So you've got a good representation tonight on the call. And I hope that if you take anything away, it's that Sarah, Alison, Cheryl, Sue and I, we're all really proud to work in adult social care here in East Sussex. There are always going to be people in our society who at some point are vulnerable and in need of care. And it's got to be a better world when we are caring for each other. So if you get the chance to have a look at our staff video on the Restless site, you'll see some real staff members talk about why they've chosen to work in adult social care at East Sussex. So this is a brand new video that's been put together lately, and there's a lot of different people talking about why they love working for us. So if you get the chance, I recommend you take a look at that. I'm going to check with Claire. Have we had any questions, or does anyone want to ask a question or pop something in the chat?
We've not had any questions in the chat, but if anybody has a question, please, please do ask. Yeah.
And I can see, Bridget, you've just joined us, but Claire, the recording will be made available, won't it? So Bridget won't have missed out.
Yeah. So this will be made available. You'll receive an email with a link to the video.
I've just seen the question about where are you based. It depends on the role. So for example, if it was a role within my service, we're based at St Mary's House in Eastbourne. If it was with Cheryl's team, that's a county-wide team. And there are roles and vacancies and different things across the whole county.
Yeah, we're based in County Hall. JCR have actually got 3 teams. There's 1 team in Bexhill, 1 in Eastbourne and 1 in here in Lewes.
Any more for any more? No? Lovely. Claire, shall I hand back to you then?
Yes. Did you have one more question you wanted to share? Polling question. Did you want to?
Oh, yes, please. Thanks for the prompt. Premna, would you mind popping up the final poll? We've got one more question for everyone before you head off. So how likely are you to get in touch with us about working in adult social care? What do you think? Very likely? Give it some thought. Feel free to be honest. Great. Those all sound really positive, and I do, please go away, have a think, digest everything you've heard, have a look at the Restless site, have a look at our own website. There's lots more information, and again, use that email address to get in touch with us, and we'll have a conversation with you and put you in touch with the right person. Again, any other questions that come to you as you're eating your dinner tonight, put them down, and we'd love to hear from you.
Amazing. So I guess, unless anybody has any last minute questions, anything burning that they want to ask or anything they want to share, yeah, thank you so much everybody for attending. That really just brings it to a close. So just to say thank you, Sue, Sarah, Alison and Suzy for joining us this evening. We really appreciate it. It was a really great event, really interesting and lovely to hear from somebody who works in as a support worker as well. And also to our members, thank you so much for joining and taking time out of your evening. We really appreciate that. If you would like to explore current vacancies in adult social care with East Sussex County Council, we've included the link that will take you to the pre-filtered selection of the jobs, that open vacancies that they have that are on our Restless site. So that's where that link takes you. If you have any questions, then there's an email address you'll see in the chat. Please do get in touch with the team. They're keen to hear from you. Also, I mentioned earlier that the event will be recorded. It will be shared with you in the coming days. We'll also share the email address again there, and links to the open vacancies that are currently on the Restless job board. Yeah, just to say, enjoy the rest of your evening. I can't quite believe it's dark outside now. So thank you all very much. Really appreciate all of your time.